What's up, everybody? Tara Wellman here. Happy 2019. I hope the first few days of your new year have been a good start to what will hopefully be a great year. One thing that will be happening this year that has never happened before is that Major League Baseball is headed to London. Now, you're probably wondering what the Yankees and the Red Sox playing in London has to do with the Cardinals. The answer is nothing, but it does help me introduce today's guest as we continue to wind our way through the winter, wondering about what we will see in this 2019 season. If you are on the Twitter, which you probably are if you're watching or listening to this, you may have seen from the winter meetings reports by the Baseball Brit. Well, today, my guest on the show is Joey himself, the Baseball Brit, who will, by the way, be making an appearance in St. Louis this summer. We talk all about the growth of baseball in the UK, what having this series in London means, and just where you will be able to follow his baseball adventures throughout the summer. Great conversation, really excited to have him on today, and I hope you'll enjoy it as well. So, here's Joey. So Joey, first of all, thank you so much for joining me today, this afternoon for you, this morning for me, but we're dealing with some international time zones, making it happen so that we can give everyone a bit more of an introduction to baseball and its growth in the UK. So thank you for joining me today.
My pleasure to be on, Tara. Thanks for having me.
So you've just recently had the chance to go to the winter meetings in Vegas. I want to talk about that a little bit. But before that, for people who maybe aren't quite familiar with you, with your story, with what you're doing, let's sort of take it back a little bit. Your first introduction to baseball, at least in person, was in Japan. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right. So I left England back in 2014 to work over in the Far East. Didn't know anything about baseball, never given it a second thought really, and saw my first game in Japan, the Oryx Buffaloes in Osaka. And since then, yeah, I've just been hardcore into it.
What was it that hooked you? What was the thing about it that made you want to know more and now turn it into this incredible journey?
Oh boy. I think to begin with, it was just the fact that I was enjoying it, watching the game, but I had no idea what was happening. I didn't know how many players there were on each team. I didn't know if they had to come in a certain lineup or you could just pick and choose whoever you wanted. So it was my ignorance at not understanding anything, but coupled with my sheer enjoyment of just sitting there watching in Japan, all the extra stuff as well that's going on with the cheerleaders and the beer girls, all the statistics up on the screen. So it was the overall experience, and I saw it with my parents as well. So it was special just to sit there and have a chat with them and share that experience with them as well.
Now, I imagine the fan experience, as you mentioned, is quite different in Japan than when you had the chance to come to the States and see some Major League games. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, but you did have the chance to come to Vegas and check out the winter meetings this year. What was that like? What was your expectation of the winter meetings and then compare it to what the reality was?
It's the first time I've been to any sort of winter meeting like that, and I'd read a little bit that it's essentially just lots of journalists coming together and drinking in the hotel lobby for 5 days. And it didn't let me down on that front. It was pretty boozy, but personally, I really enjoyed it. It's just the opportunity to be in the same room as lots of people that I read online and I respect a lot and I learn from. Every time they write an article like Jay Jaffe, I'll read it and I'll learn lots about the Hall of Fame. I've got his Cooperstown casebook just to my right here. So, from that kind of fanboy element, it was incredibly fun. But at the same time, I did have media pass, and I therefore kind of had to suppress my fan boy and be professional and not ask people for selfies and things and all that stuff. So it was quite difficult to kind of rein in my enthusiasm at just being in awe at all these people I was meeting, these heroes of mine.
So in Vegas, was there anything that surprised you or that kind of stood out as the thing that you were least expecting?
I think it was probably I knew the managers went to the winter meetings and they spoke to, the assembled journalists, but I didn't realize quite, the format of how they did it. So you go into this huge cavernous room underneath the Mandalay Bay Hotel, and each day you had these different schedules for the managers. But on one side you had maybe, I don't know, like Aaron Boone, and then on the other side you had Alex Cora, for example. And the journalists had to kind of pick which manager they wanted to go and speak to. So I was there, kind of just wanting to ask questions to all of them, but you had to pick. And I found that quite interesting, and I found it quite difficult in terms of which team do I choose. We have lots of team accounts back in the UK, and I didn't want to let anyone down in terms of choosing the Blue Jays manager over the Orioles manager, for example. So that was kind of a bit different from what I was expecting. But other than that, it was pretty standard. It was just a lot of people in a room learning from the managers about what they're going to do this season. Lots of questions about the shift. But it was super fun. So yeah, probably the best week I've had in 2018.
Yeah, the opportunity to see a lot of that up close, I'm sure, is fascinating, to say the least. You mentioned a lot of the fan accounts in the UK. Let's talk about that, because I'm not sure that many American baseball fans realize quite the reach that the game has now in the UK. So what's the growth like? Who's paying attention, and how many teams are really involved in this?
I think the growth is it's very encouraging, and it's happening fairly. I've only been using Twitter for just over a year. So when I joined back in, I think it was at the end of 2017, there weren't many people following National League accounts, for example, with the Cardinals in. And in the last 12 months, we've had 300% growth of the National League followers, and we've got people now managing every single team. Although we are struggling a bit with the Reds and the Orioles, but everyone else is accounted for, and lots of these have just like flourished. And we've got podcasts now on websites, merchandise, excitement, interaction. It's an exciting time, 2019, for British baseball fans.
What do you think it is that has spurred a lot of that growth? Is it just more and more people being introduced to the game?
That's a really good question. I think certainly lots of people have been watching baseball in the UK, I think, for a long time without necessarily having a community to gravitate towards. I'm not saying Twitter's perfect, but certainly from my point of view, Twitter's given me the opportunity. I've been a baseball fan for 3 years before, since 2014, but discovering people like Batflips and Nerds on Twitter, and then all the various different team accounts. For me personally, I wake up every day. I'm in a fantasy baseball league for the National League, actually, with 19 other people. And every day we'll wake up and there'll be trades and there'll be banter and all these messages and excitement and fun. So I think social media really has helped. I don't use Facebook much, and I don't use Instagram at all. So it's just on Twitter that I'm confident that there is this big community, and we have meetups and people have drinks together, and it's so fun, Tara. Honestly, like I really hope some Cardinals fans make it out to London, even though it's the Red Sox Yankees, and come and meet us, and come and talk to us, and tell us about Busch Stadium and about your season and stuff, because we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, it's so exciting, I think, when you start to create that community. Obviously, the Cardinals blog that I write for and that this is for is a part of creating that community for people. And it changes how you watch the game, right? When you're not just, watching by yourself, but you have people to share ideas with, and to sometimes debate with about strategy and learn from, and all of those things. That makes such a difference, I think.
No, absolutely. And we have MLBUK community where we kind of all come together. And I find baseball, I enjoy watching it on my own as well. So, I'm quite nerdy, so I have the scorecard and I'll just go and sit and, score a game. But it's a sport where you can talk to people, and you can kind of share and reflect and, discuss. It gives you that kind of time to think, really, which in this day and age, you don't get that often, really. People, have short attention spans these days, but there's always so much other things that you could be looking at. But baseball, for me, I'm just engrossed in it. Like, my phone stays in my pocket pretty much the whole time, unless I really, really want to kind of like, they bring in like a relief pitcher and I have no idea who it is. And then I'm Googling like Baseball Reference or whatever to find out, what their stats are. But other than that, it's just that kind of camaraderie that you have at baseball, watching a baseball game. And so many people in the UK and Europe will be going to a baseball game for the first time in June. Yeah. And I can't wait for them to experience that kind of excitement and fun of being with people and just, watching the game slowly and talking and enjoying it.
Yeah, let's talk about that because it's very exciting that that the London series will be taking place this year. The Yankees and the Red Sox, probably the most well-known teams outside of kind of the Midwest area of the United States. But nonetheless, this is a great opportunity not only for fans in the UK, but also for baseball to embrace a whole nother section of their fan base, right? So what's it been like, the build up to that, and seeing people in the UK responding to the opportunity to have baseball there?
I mean, it kind of cast my mind back a bit. I just remember the initial sheer joy of finding out that Major League Baseball was even thinking about coming over to Europe, first of all, and then we found out it was London. It kind of got leaked on MLB Network, and there was people were taking screenshots of a kind of TV image. And then we waited and we kind of half knew that maybe they were coming because of this leaked image. And then it got announced, and I was in South Korea, and I was just kind of fist pump in the air, and I couldn't believe it because I knew what a big thing this is really for baseball fans in this part of the world. So, Yankees and Red Sox as well. What a big statement. I'm sure Cards, Cubs maybe next year would be great.
There you go. Yeah.
They kind of missed the beat there, but I think Yankees and Red Sox, it's a kind of signal of intent from Major League Baseball that they're really going to go for it. I was amazed the Red Sox gave up 2 of their home games for this. I thought it'd be split 50-50. I know some Red Sox fans, being Red Sox fans from Boston, they're very passionate people. So I'm sure some, maybe a minority or maybe a majority, are pretty annoyed they're missing 2 games. But we're going to make sure that, we enjoy it just as much as they would have done. And we hope they come over and watch it with us.
Yeah, it's so interesting to see Major League Baseball reaching out and trying to involve some of these international communities a bit more. And I think it's so great for a lot of reasons. One is that there's so much talk, and I'm sure you hear this, I'm sure you see this when you meet people and you talk about baseball in the US. There's kind of this overriding idea that baseball is broken. I'm not sure I believe that, because you see it go to these other places and you see the excitement and you see the intensity of the rivalries. And I think part of I don't know that it's a problem, but part of the issue in the United States is that baseball is so readily available, right? There's so much of it. It's so saturated in this market that anyone can watch it, anyone can see it, anyone can experience it. So I find it really exciting to see baseball go to these other places where it's not so readily available. And then all of a sudden you see how exciting and how intensely passionate baseball fans really are, which makes me think maybe it's not baseball that's broken.
No, I mean, can I just apologise for having a cup of tea, by the way, on the video there?
I've got mine here too, so.
No, I mean, for us, to be honest, it's the other way around from what you've described. For us, it's very hard to kind of stumble across baseball. It's on a satellite channel. It's on BT Sport, but it's on very late for us. The time difference makes it very difficult. We have quite a large Cubs following just because they have so many day games in Chicago. That for us, that means we can actually watch it in the evening. You guys, like in St. Louis, if you have a 7:05 start, for us, I think that's maybe 1:05 in the morning. So we do have a few West Coast fans that kind of, go the other way and will wake up at like 4 a.m. and watch the last maybe 2 or 3 innings in LA or San Diego, wherever, Seattle. So for us, there isn't too much of it. We have MLB at bat where you can pay £100, and then that is fantastic, by the way. So those of us that love baseball already, we have that resource and we can watch it on my phone. I can watch it through my laptop on my TV. But if you're new to baseball or, maybe someone that's curious about baseball, that's a big gamble to spend £100 flat out if you're not sure you love it or not. So that's another reason why Major League Baseball heading to London is so great, because it's going to be in our media for the first time. It's going to be in our newspapers. It's going to be on BBC. We had Jackie Bradley Jr. over, I think, 2 or 3 weeks ago, and he was on our big radio channel, our big sports radio channel. He was on TV as well. So hopefully more people are going to learn about baseball and see baseball. And personally, I don't think there's too much wrong with it. I know the pace of play gets mentioned, but for me, 3 hours, 3 hours 10, 3 hours 15, I don't really care.
Yeah, I'm of the opinion that if you're committed to 2.5 hours, what's 3 hours and 10 minutes, right? And if it's something that you're enjoying, why not? No, I love hearing that. I was actually going to ask you what the sort of media response has been ahead of the series coming to London, because that's a big part of this, right? Is getting it out in front of people and letting them see it for the first time.
I think that's probably like the most important thing is, we're the people on Twitter that I'm friends with, we're already committed to baseball. We love it. So we're going to be there doing everything we can to let others know about it. But it does take a big media kind of corporation like the BBC or, Radio 5 Live, maybe a big celebrity just to kind of get behind it as well. So, more people are introduced to it because we're doing our bit, but we don't have that many followers. And, we're kind of a small community that's growing rather than an already established big name. So the BBC, Sky Sports, if you're listening, get stuck in.
It's worth it, I promise. It's a great thing to be a part of. I did want to ask you, someone on Twitter who happens to be from the UK, now living in the United States, asked if there's much growth in participation in baseball, and how much something like having this series in London can do to maybe introduce it to kids for the first time and have them inspired to give it a shot themselves.
Yeah, I'll be honest, we don't have the infrastructure or the facilities at the moment, but this is all part of the process. So, I was speaking to the manager of Team GB, the Great Britain national team. We're currently ranked 38th in the world, but he's certainly hoping that this event in London brings the community together, coaches and managers and teams from Scotland and, Ireland and Wales, wherever. We don't care. We just hope that people come together and see this as an opportunity to really grow interest in the sport, and hopefully it will lead to more funding in the future. They had funding turned down recently, but it went to softball, which is great, but baseball missed out. So hopefully this is gonna help.
Yeah, a great chance, at least, for that excitement to inspire some people there as well. So let's move away from that a little bit and go back to your experience viewing baseball in the States and around the world. You spent most of last summer traveling to see baseball. You're doing the same this summer. What's on the agenda this year? I know you made it to St. Louis last year, but where are you looking to go this year?
I'll be honest, I've got to be careful what I say because I'm so excited, Tara, about what I'm going to be doing this year. And like last summer was, the best summer of my life. So I don't want to rub it in anyone's face. I really hope I'm not gloating. But yeah, last year I saw 75 games, across the USA, West Coast to East Coast. And this year I'm seeing 162. I'm going to do the equivalent of a season. And make sure I see over 100 Major League Baseball games, because that's really where the interest is back home. But I also love the minors and the independent stuff. So, I'll be heading, to go and see the Palm Beach Cardinals, the Springfield Cardinals. I'll be at Memphis for one game, the Redbirds as well, your AAA team. So I am so excited. I fly to Hong Kong tomorrow, and I've got to work for a couple more months and just earn some money, and then that'll pay for the car hopefully, and I can hit the road, and I'll be blogging about it and reporting back to people in the UK and anyone really that's interested in just a random British guy loving each day at a baseball ballpark.
It's a baseball fan's dream, right? To spend the summer watching baseball. So we can all live vicariously through you. I also love minor league baseball because I think you see, and I've heard you say this before, you see a level of simplicity and of the pure drive to get better at this game that you don't quite get at the major league level. But I also think it's fascinating to watch these guys really chasing that dream, and you see how much it means and how intensely they want to get there. And I think that's a really fascinating part of the whole baseball process when you get a chance to see that up close. Plus, there's nothing quite like the experience at a minor league baseball game, although I imagine baseball in Japan is a close rival.
Yeah, baseball in Japan and Korea is fantastic, but I was at Springfield Cardinals last summer, and that was one of my favorite ballparks and one of my favorite experiences. The people in Missouri, the Midwest generally, are some of the warmest, most friendly people, and I really enjoyed my time in Missouri, and I'm really excited. I'm just checking. I'm back. I'm in St. Louis for a game against the Royals, I think on the 21st of May. So I'll be in town for one day, 21st of May and the 5th of June against the Reds. So if anyone in St. Louis wants to meet up and have some toasted ravioli or a beer or whatever, then do get in touch, because I'd love to meet as many Cards fans as possible. Awesome,
there you go. Yeah, make sure if you're in St. Louis and can check out those games or even just catch them before the game, make sure you do that, because this is, like I said earlier, it's a community, and it's a great opportunity for us who live and die Cardinals baseball to sort of embrace another portion of that fan base. Like I said, you were in St. Louis last year. What was that experience like?
I was in St. Louis, so I actually met up with a guy who was at university there, He'd written an article for the Hardball Times. His name's Wes. He's a Reds fan, to be fair, but he was at university in St. Louis, and he was a smashing bloke. And I said, I'm going to come and meet you because he spent the time to write this article about me. I think when I was in Springfield, actually. I woke up in Springfield and I did a phone interview with him from the Hardball Times. And I stayed for the Washington Nationals game. I saw Bryce Harper in the outfield. I sat in the bleachers, Tara. And if I'm being honest, I drank way too much. So, it was so fun. Like, the weather was perfect. We had these like dancing girls like across the grass, like really nearby, like doing all sorts of like gymnastic kind of stuff. They were throwing things, t-shirts and stuff. And it was great. Busch Stadium. I actually went back the following day. I think you were playing the Brewers the second day, and I stayed for a third day because I just enjoyed the ballpark so much. It's such a great place to watch baseball. And I made sure it's definitely on the itinerary for this summer because it's one of my favorite ballparks in Major League Baseball.
What are your favorite places? Where have the best experiences been so far?
I mean, the people that know me and follow me online, they'll know that I'm a big Midwest fan. I'm not just saying that because I know you're from the Midwest. Like, generally, it's my favorite place. So I've got to be careful what I say. I know because I'm, talking to a Cardinal fan, but I really like, Kaufman as well. The Royals. I saw my first ever NFL. I saw the Chiefs play there. Okay. And that kind of made me think, wow, I need to come back and watch a baseball game. And
it's a great place to watch a game. Kaufman's great.
Yeah, it's kind of like, it's odd that it's in a car park. You know what I mean? Yeah. But once you're inside and you forget the fact you're actually in the middle of a car park, it's an incredible place with the fountains. But St. Louis I love because it's got that downtown location and they kind of gentrified the area. You have all those bars right across the street. Where you can walk directly into the ballpark. But I liked Oakland as well. It's kind of grungy, grimy, a bit dirty. It reminds me of some of the ballparks in Korea where I watched a lot of the games. So I love all of them. Like, I'm not going to lie.
There's not a bad place to watch a game, right?
No, honestly, there isn't. Like, when people ask me to rank them, it's very difficult. But the Cardinals were in my top 3 when I spoke to Bat Flips. That is on record, I think, so you can check that.
Well, we're glad to hear that. Of course, we're a bit biased, but we love the experience of watching a game in St. Louis. And I think the fans there are so intensely passionate about baseball as well. That helps the experience for sure. So as you are getting set to make this journey again this year, where can people follow you? How can they tag along and see what your journey brings this summer?
Well, I think I'm just in one place. So I use Twitter, and you can follow me at Baseball Brit. It's quite an easy one to remember, I hope. And I'll be traveling all over the USA. So even if there's Cardinals fans like out west in Los Angeles or out east, wherever in the USA, if I'm nearby, I'll tweet where I'm going in the morning, and I'll jump in the car. And if there's any Cardinals fans anywhere, then it'd be lovely to meet them and go and watch a ball game with them somewhere.
Excellent. So keep your eyes on that Twitter account. You can follow, like I said, live this baseball dream vicariously through Joey. Thank you so much for your time today, and I'm looking forward to the stories that you stumble across this summer.
Tara, thanks for having me, mate, and I'm looking forward to meeting you this summer as well.
Excellent. Thanks so much. There really is nothing like building a community of like-minded people, and when that like-mindedness is around baseball, it's a lot of fun. So I really would encourage you to follow the UK Cardinals Twitter account. I will put it in the show notes below. Make sure you give them a follow so that we can help them introduce Cardinals baseball to a whole nother segment of a potential fan base in the UK. Also, make sure you're following Joey. It's at Baseball Brit, and you can see where he will be throughout the summer. Make sure if you're in St. Louis and you get a chance, you take it to meet up with him. And again, just build this baseball community and the international flavor that it now has. Thank you all for watching and for listening. Make sure you're subscribed here and to the podcast. New episodes of Chirps come out every Wednesday. You can find all sorts of other great information at birdsontheblack.com, and I will be back again with another edition of Winter Wonderland as we inch closer to pitchers and catchers reporting in February. Until then, I'm Tara Wellman, and I'll see you next time.